guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Felicia. They call me Fee or Dr. Fee. Over here we talk about all things love, relationship, pop culture, anything that is surrounded around baby boomers, Gen X. We talk about lifestyle, we talk about dating, we talk about perimenopause, we talk about menopause, because over here we are not in denial. Okay, so today I have a function that I'm going to. I am a part of the National Black MBA Association. I have my master's in business administration, and I am a member of the Atlanta chapter, and they are having their Black History program today. So I'm getting ready to go to that. So I thought I would just jump on and chit chat with you all while I do my makeup. Once again, the disclaimer like I gave in my other Get Ready With Me. I'm not a makeup guru. I do what works for me. At 59, I am a Gen X59, and I'm over here living my best life, okay? Over here, I have a beautiful tribe of women, a community. We support each other. We embrace each other as we go through this journey of getting older like fine wine, okay, gracefully. And we are not leaning into our age. We're just enjoying our life, okay? So I thought I would just jump on and chit chat with you all while I do my makeup. So this is the primer that I'm using. And guys, I have a LTK. And all the products that I'm using, they are linked, or I will link them. The majority of them are already linked in my LTK. So please follow me on my LTK. Okay. So yeah, y'all. So I'm excited about just going to this function today. I am super excited about it, right? Because it's my tribe, it's my people, and I really enjoy being around them. I joined the organization right after I finished my MBA in 2018. No, I joined in 2018. At the end of 2017, or at the beginning of 2018. I can't remember. But I've been a member now for a while. And it's just a great organization, especially if you are into networking, if you are like you're an entrepreneur, small business owner. There's a lot of resources that are in the room at the National MBA functions, right? They have conferences. They have like little cocktail network functions. They have things for young adults. I mean, they have all kind of meetings and activities going on. So, and you don't have to have an MBA to join the organization. It's just if you just like to network and you want to get a hold of some resources, it is a great organization to be a part of, really, y'all. I've really enjoyed being a part of it. And if it's like I said, you don't have to have your MBA. You can still join, the organization. So I'm excited about going today. So it's from 6:30 to 8:30. And Azona, I think her name is Azona, one of the speakers that's going to be there tonight. Y'all, I got a new phone, so I'm filming from my 17 Pro Max. And so that was one of my 60th birthday gifts before 60. So I got an upgrade on my phone. So that's the one I'm filming on now. But yeah, her name is, Exona Clayton. So she's going to be there. She's going to be the keynote speaker. And at a lot of their events, they have like, speakers. I have been to an event where there was the CEO of Delta, the CEO of Goodwill. I mean, it's just great resources in the room, you know. I mean, it's Black excellence. I'll say that, Black excellence. That's what it is. And so I'm part of, I'm glad to be a part of the organization and be able to network and kind of, interact with people who are like-minded, that I can, kind of, we can share with each other on, our ideologies on different things, right? So I'm excited about that. So let me put my hair drops in, y'all. Because, baby, at this age, I'll be needing all the little drops I can get, honey. All the little drops I can get. So this is Creed, and I will link this as well. I will link it as well. But, yeah, I want to put my drops in before I forget, y'all, because I'll forget. So, I'm going to use my Estee Lauder today. This is the new one that I bought. This is one of the gifts that I bought for 60 gifts before 60. So I'm going to use this one today. So, yeah, y'all. And I need to get a pump for this. I need to get a pump. I touch my face with this stuff. Let me clean my hands again. So, yeah, y'all. I'm excited about going just to, network and see who all's in the room. And so, yeah, y'all, I'm excited about going, about going just to network, and to be out, I'm just excited about going, being able to get out, and just enjoy myself. I I was a non-traditional student, right? Meaning that I started my education later in life. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, I was trying to be somebody's wife. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with being married. It is nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing at all. Yeah, I'll be so glad when I get my eyebrows unbraid. They sisters. They ain't twins, but they sisters. So, I started school late in life, right? And that was because I got married the first time. Well, both times. Well, the first two times I was young. I was younger than I was the third time, I'll say that. So I got married young, right? And being a Gen X, growing up in my family, all the women in my family were married, right? All the women were married. All the women my aunts were married. All my cousins were married. Everybody was married, right? So I always seen women being married. Now, whether it was a good marriage, a toxic marriage, they were married, right? So I never saw any of the women in my family be single mothers. So in my mind, when I graduated from high school, I thought that is what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to get married, right? So, that was the ideology I had. Graduate from high school, maybe get a trade, which I did. I got a trade. I went to a technical college. I got a trade. I became a medical transcriptionist. Back then, it was like a secretary, typing and transcribing and all that was big, right? So I did that. Um, I did that when I first graduated from high school. That's what I did. And that's really what got me into the administration of the medical field, because that's where I work now, and on the administration side of healthcare. So I went to trade, I went to technical school. I got a certificate. I got like 20 different certificates right now. And nothing wrong with getting a certificate. There's nothing wrong with making a foundation to be able to thrive and have a healthy lifestyle, right? So I ended up going to technical school and getting a certificate and all of that. And I ended up, I'm originally from the Midwest, Gary, and I ended up moving to Atlanta. And I ended up, getting married. Which was my child's father. And I actually met him on one of my first jobs here in Atlanta, right? So I ended up moving here, and at the time I had a technical certificate, right? So I ended up getting married, getting pregnant with my child. And then after, she got a certain age, I said, okay, well, I'm ready. I need to go back to school, right? I need to be able to sustain a certain lifestyle for myself and my child. And not only that, I want to show her the education, because education has always been at the forefront for me, and it has always been important to me, right? Even though I didn't see anybody in my family seeking higher education. My dad went as far as to be a sophomore in college. But, I come from the Midwest. Steel mills were prominent during that time. My dad worked in a steel mill, so he made decent money. My mom was a homemaker. Later on, she worked. She was a high school graduate. So I really didn't have any examples of women in my family that were educated, right? Higher education, I would say. They all graduated from high school. So, as time went on, and I began to raise my daughter, I wanted her to see something different, right? I am a firm believer that each generation does better than the prior generation. And I was determined to let my daughter, make sure that my daughter, saw something different than what I've seen growing up as far as education. So I ended up going back to school later, right? I ended up going back to school a little bit later on, after my daughter was a certain age. Well, she was young. So I went back to school and I started my associates, right? So I started my associates. I got through with that. I took a little break because I got a divorce in the middle of getting my associates. Then in the middle, right at the end of finishing my associates, I ended up getting married again. So at the time, being married for the third time, I was finishing up my undergrad. which I was trying to do a dual degree. I was trying to focus on my undergrad and my master's at the same time. And I started off doing that, but it was just really difficult because, mind you, I was a full-time mother and had a full-time job. And at this point, I was somebody's wife. So it became a little bit overwhelming for me. It became a little bit overwhelming for me, right? To try to, you know, try to juggle all that, you know, and school, and it was a lot. It was a lot, right? So, so I ended up finishing my undergrad. I graduated with my bachelor's in business administration. And then later on, I went back for my MBA, and I was still somebody's wife at that time. So I ended up finishing my MBA, right? And so I finished my MBA at the top of, well, in 2018. I finished my MBA in 2018. I finished my MBA. So I said that to say all of this. I didn't have great, well, I'm not going to say luck. In the marriage area, it just didn't work out because I've been married 3 times, right? Just wrong person, wrong time. I don't know. My picker was off. I don't know. But I grew up seeing marriage, and I thought that was my path. I thought that my path in life was to be somebody's wife, right? So I kept trying to be somebody's wife. I kept over and 3 times, right? But because that's what I thought that I should do. That's not what I necessarily wanted for myself. I wanted to be an attorney. That was my initial thing. I wanted to be an attorney because I'm a great writer. I'm real good in English. So I wanted to be an attorney, right? But I saw all the women in my family being wives. So I thought that was my destiny. That was my path, when it wasn't. When truly my path it wasn't at that time. Now I desire to be a wife, and I am wife material. Now that my education, the bulk of it is behind me, because I'm currently in school now to get my DBA, my doctorate in business administration. So I'm a little bit over my first course, and I'm doing well in it, right? And I really enjoy being in school. And the reason, and people say, well, why are you going back to get your doctorate and you're 59 and you'll be 61 when you finish? Because it's going to kind of set me up for retirement. I have a good, I have a good amount of cushion for retirement now, but this is going to take me over the edge as far as being able to, do some things with it that I want to do in retirement. So to go back to what I was saying, just because your pathology is in one direction, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go, or that's your blueprint in life. My blueprint in life at the time of my marriage is when I got married young, because I got married young, y'all. The first 2 times, I was young. I was young and didn't have a clue. Okay? I was young and didn't have a clue. Right? I didn't have, I just, seeing all the women in my family being wives. So I thought that was the pathology or the direction I needed to go, when that was not the blueprint or the way God wanted me to go, because I kept picking the wrong person, and, the marriage just ended, right? But when I got in school, I can remember being in, when I started my associate and my child was little, y'all. I remember, I had a great support system, people who helped me, because at that point, at that point, when I started my associates, I was a single mother, had a full-time job, and I had a young child, right? So I remember, driving. I remember working all day, getting off work, sitting in class from 6 p.m., from 5:45 to 9:45, driving home, hadn't seen my baby, family member had my baby, and making sure she was okay, and, making sure she had her dinner, and, and she, did her homework. And I was going to school twice a week, right? I was going to school on Mondays and Wednesdays, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, depending on what the course was, right? So I remember, I remember when I started my associates, and y'all, it was such a feeling of gratification. I got more gratification out of being in school because, education always was important to me. I was always, I did well in high school. I tested well, although I think the Gary public school system failed me when it came to math, but because I struggled with math, but I made it. But I always had a passion for learning and education, and I love reading. So I love like social studies and English and literature and all those things, right? So when I got in school, it was like something was fulfilled, right? That void was fulfilled, even though that I saw my mom and my aunts and my grandmothers and my cousins, married and having husbands. And I tried to go that path, but that path did not fulfill what I so desired inside. And that was to get an education. So after the second time of being married, I said, okay. And with maturity and growth and, connecting with myself, I found fulfillment in pouring into myself and bettering myself and thinking about the future of my child, right? Because if I can better myself and enhance my lifestyle, she's going to benefit from that, right? And she has. My 33-year-old is an epidemiologist, right? So when I was in my associate's degree, it was like, bing! Oh, this is what I should have did, instead of trying to be married and trying to walk in the same pathology and the destiny that my mom and my aunts walked in, right? This is where I need to be. This is where I need to be. So, when I got into my associate's program, there were periods of time where I stopped, I went. Sometimes it was family issues, sometimes it was financial issues, but I always went back, right? So that's why it kind of took me, a little longer than what I would have liked it to have been, but no regrets. God's timing is perfect, in due season and in due time, right? So finishing up my associates and then moving on to undergrad and getting my bachelor's. And at that point, I'm married. And then, later on, finishing up my MBA. And now being able to say, I'm in school to get my DBA. I am a doctoral candidate at 59, right? And it just solidifies everything within me. Not for someone else to validate me, but for me to feel accomplished. You know, it makes me feel like, okay, to look back, this was your path, because I excel in school, right? I have no issues with learning, you know. I'm a good learner. I'm not going to say I'm the smartest, but I catch on quick, right? I catch on quick. And once I got it, I got it. So, and I'm very analytical, so that helps too. But that was my pathology, was to achieve my education and not necessarily be somebody's wife at that time, at that point in my life. Now, at this time and this point in my life, do I have the desire, now that I have fulfilled that need in me, to pour into myself and to achieve education for myself? Absolutely. And I am going to be somebody's wife for the fourth time. Mind your business. I am going to be somebody's wife for the fourth time, right? But I just want all of my young people, and maybe some of my Gen X or baby boomers, never ignore what you desire because you think that you should walk into your pathology, right? And I ignored what I desire. My desire was to go to college, right? Because I was pretty smart, right? But I had never seen anybody in my family, you know, go to college. It wasn't even discussed, right? Because my parents, like I said, my dad, you know, he finished, I think he went all the way up to his sophomore year, if I'm not mistaken. But it still wasn't discussed, right? I don't even remember. Maybe I think I had maybe a couple older cousins that went to college, but they were so much older than me. You know, they were grown, and I was one of the younger cousins. So, you know, it just was not, and not that I could not have went, you know, not that my parents couldn't have afforded to send me to college, but back then, you know, in high school, we had, like, you know, we did trades. You went to auto mechanic school, you went to cosmetology, or, you know, something like that. A lot of my classmates did go on to college. A lot of them went to Indiana University, IUN, you know, Bloomington, went to school in Bloomington. You know, a lot of them did go. But I was just not exposed to the resources to go. Coming from a very small town, you know, if you didn't ask, if you didn't know, nobody really introduced that, you know, to you. And it was just never introduced to me, you know. Getting a certificate, going to a technical school at that time was more prominent than actually getting a degree, right? At least for me. So as I got older and I moved away from home and I got into society, and I realized that I had a yearning desire for knowledge and love to read, education, and you know, that was my thing. That was my thing. And I always wanted my own business. I've always been, you know, I have always been a leader and not a follower. I always wanted my own business and wanted to work for myself. So that's why I went into a business major degree, right? I had started off with business management. And I remember talking to my counselor over at Mercer, and she was like, "Well, Felicia, if you're gonna, business administration will give you a little more leverage than business management." And I was like, "Okay, y'all." Lady didn't tell me that calculus and all that math, because it's a little a lot of people say, "Well, what are you gonna do with your business degree?" Business management, you don't have as much leverage as you have in business administration. I can go any direction in business administration, right? And especially now, since I've been in the healthcare field for 40 years, right? So with my degrees and my experience, I can do just about anything, that I want to do in the industry. I will always have a job. I will always be able to do something, right? Yeah, I bought a new Morphe liquid brush for my foundation. And for my blush. And y'all already told y'all know I like blush, so mind your business. Mind your business. We gonna take this up and all around these cheeks, because we like a little blush, okay? So mind your business. All right, it's all gonna work out. It's all gonna work out, okay? It's all gonna work out. Trust the process. So yeah, after a while, being into the program, the business administration program, I found out that it was a lot of math involved, right? It was a lot, y'all. It was a lot of math involved. And I was like, I know you fucking lying. Excuse me, y'all. But I was like, I should have stayed in the business management program. Yeah, I remember trying to switch, but it was just too late to even switch because I was just so far into my program. But when I tell you that calculus almost took me out. Now statistics, I ace statistics, but it was something about that calculus, y'all. I don't know, but I ended up getting it. But if you really want something in life and it's worth having, it is not going to be easy. Okay? It is, I'm going to tell you now, something worth having does not come easy. Okay? And that's just what it is, y'all. That's just what it is. That's just what it is, And I learned that. I learned that when I was in undergrad. I ended up going to tutoring. I can remember like it was yesterday, y'all. I can remember like it was yesterday, y'all. I work from home. I would get off work on the days that I didn't have class, and I would drive to Mercer and go to tutoring. I would be in the math lab, tutoring math lab. I remember sitting at the desk with the instructor that was helping me with my calculus. We talking about college calculus now. We ain't talking about high school calculus. We talking about college calculus. We talking about a math problem where you got to show your work, and you may have at least 2 to 3 pages of shown work to solve the math problem. That's what we talking about. Okay, I just want to make clear, because some people think that when I say calculus, I'm talking about the calculus in high school that the children take. I'm not talking about that calculus. I'm talking about college calculus and a business administration program. I'm talking about a problem where you got to show your work. It ain't like now. We didn't have ChatGPT back then. We didn't have that back in 2012 and 2013 when I was in school, 2011. We didn't have ChatGPT, okay? I had a calculator, but you still had to input the numbers in the calculator correct to get the correct problem. So I just want to make that perfectly clear, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, that was just easy. It's so easy." And maybe for some people it is, because there were some people in my math class, they had it. But I blamed it on the Gary school system failed me when it came to math, because I don't even remember, y'all. Really, I don't even remember any of my math from high school. So I struggled in that area in undergrad, right? Because that's when I really got off into my math. In my associates, I have had accounting. I aced accounting. Accounting wasn't a problem until I got to my MBA program. And no, finance. I did good in accounting in my grad program. It was the finance that I had a problem with, and my ex hired a tutor for me. But calculus in undergrad was a obstacle. It was a stumbling block for me. But I was determined, because I had such a passion and such a desire for education, right? So I ended up going to tutoring. I ended up I just did my lashes. And like I said, I'll link the lashes that I wear, everything that I wear in my LTK. You all make sure you follow my LTK. But yeah, so I ended up passing calculus with a B. I ended up graduating from undergrad with a 3.1, 3.2 or something like that. But I ended up graduating at the top of my class in undergrad, right? So after undergrad, I said, okay. Like I said, I tried to do the dual program, because Mercer had a program where you can get your undergrad and your master's at the same time, but it was accelerated. So you would have to take, double up on your classes. And I just couldn't do that at that time. I tried, but I just couldn't do it, right? So I ended up waiting for a little while, and then I went back to get my master's. And I was still, at that point, I was still a wife. My child, me and baby girl was in college at the same time, and I think we graduated right behind each other. That was undergrad. We graduated right behind each other. So I ended up getting my master's. The master's, it was a breeze until it came to finance. Yeah, when I tell you that finance it took me, when I tell you finance took me through there. Take me through there. It took me through there. Finance in grad school. It took me through there, y'all. When I tell you it took me through there, it took me through there. I didn't know if I was gonna make it. My ex said He said, now my ex was a lot of things, but when it came to education, that area, he supported me. That's why I don't know why he got with somebody that can't even spell. But that's neither here or there. Let me just go on. He said, don't worry about it. I got you. I'm going to hire you a tutor. So he hired me a tutor. I think he paid maybe a couple of $1,000 or so for me, a tutor, to tutor me throughout the entire semester in grad finance. Aced it. Got an A. I should have, right? I had a tutor. Graduated from that, graduated at the top of my class. I got my MBA now, so I'm ready. I'm ready to get out here. I'm ready. I'm ready to get out here. Ready. Right when I got my MBA, and I felt like, then my marriage, well, it was dissolving and it was moving in the wrong direction way long before I finished my MBA. But it really hit hard right when I finished my MBA. So I'm going through a divorce now. Just finished my MBA. Back out here, in the job market. I'm in my mid-50s, early 50s, trying, I got this MBA, boom. I got all this healthcare experience. I can get a job anywhere. Boom, 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 boom. Landed a job. I'm working. It's good potential, COVID hits. COVID hits. I'm going through a divorce. Separated. Got a job. Here comes the big C, COVID. I get laid off, right? I get laid off. But I still, I got this MBA, so I'm good. I'm good, right? Get laid off. And y'all know what happened with the laid off situation, and all that stuff. So, eventually I find another job and, it really wasn't what I wanted. But, I was able to, work. I'm still working, and I still got that leverage. So, eventually I ended up finding something that was compatible, to my MBA, right? Eventually, long story short. So I say all that to say this. Once again, your pathology is not always your destiny. Your pathology is not your destiny. My pathology was I've always seen women in my family get married, right? But I never seen women in my family get educated. I always seen the women in my family get married and be married for years, whether it was healthy or not healthy, whether it was toxic or non-toxic. I always saw the women in my family get married, but I never seen the women in my family get educated or pour into themselves. Never. Not even my mother. So I went into that direction of being a wife, and I was never, it never worked out for me because my pathology was not my destiny. And I remember being in therapy and talking about my pathology. And, my therapist said, Felicia, everything that you've gone through, it has a lot to do with your pathology. It has a lot to do with your pathology. And I just could never, and I was like, you're right. Once I thought about it, I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right. It does. Every failed marriage, all of my marriages was connected to my pathology, right? All of my husbands were like my father. Great providers. Great husbands? So connect with yourself. Connect with yourself and do what you are passionate about, whether it's education, whether it's traveling, whether it's being a resource to others. I always had a passion and a desire for education. Always. Always. Education was my thing. I love to read. I love knowledge. And so when my daughter came, when I had my baby, I changed the path, right? I changed the path. My child had a library card as early as maybe 2 or 3. Now, I know you're saying, why she have a library card at 2 or 3? On Saturdays, me and baby girl would go to the library. And she was, she was a toddler, but we would go to the children's section. Now, growing up, we had books in the house. Who remembers the encyclopedias? All my Gen X and baby boomers, y'all put down in the chat and let me know. So growing up, we had books, right? My mom had books. We had encyclopedias. I was exposed to books, but was it presented to me to sit down and read a book? Focus on reading, focus on your education, no. It was something that was expected out of me to go to school and get an education, make decent grades. And I did, y'all. I can remember making the honor roll, and making the honor roll back in those days was so big. I remember my name being in the Gary Post Tribune for making the honor roll, right? I remember it like it was yesterday. So that was an expectation, right? That was something that was expected. Nothing that you were rewarded for. That was something expected. You go to school, you graduate from high school, and then that was it. And back then, the military was really big. A lot of my peers went to the military, and they married their husbands that were in my high school. Classmates got married early. They were, one of our classmates was in the military. I have a classmate, her husband, they were both my classmates, and they got married, and they've been married, since high school. But when my child came along, I wanted to change the trajectory. I wanted to switch it up and make sure that I think each generation should do better. So she was definitely going to do better than me, right? And at her age, she's well off than what I was at her age. So I exposed her to reading, to books at an early age. We would go to the library, and we would go to the children's section. I remember sitting down in little bitty chairs, and she would sit down, and she would go and just pull books. Couldn't read. And she would just pull books, and she may pull, 4 or 5 books and bring them back to the table to me. And I would go through every book with her and, read to her, explain to her, and read to her, and explain to her, And then as she got older, she gained interest in reading, a strong interest in reading. I don't know if you all remember the Scholastic reading book order the kids used to have. She would come home and give me the order form, and she would have like 20, 30 books checked off, $100 worth of books. I remember buying her $50, $60 worth of books. So I exposed her to education and learning and knowledge at a young age where I was not exposed. It was expected, but it was not presented to me as a key to be successful in life, right? Knowledge is power. And it leads to success. That's my opinion. You can say what you want to say. So I start to expose my child to reading. Reading opens up a whole nother world, y'all. Okay? Reading is where it starts from, right? So I often tell people who have young children, make sure they read. And the key to getting your kids to read is to let them read something that they have interest in, right? So Samantha had interest in, like all of the little girly books that were out at that time. I don't remember which ones they were, but she started to read. And the more she started to read, she started to gain knowledge. I can remember us being in the grocery store, and everywhere she would go, she would have a book. Totally different from what I was at that age. I wasn't exposed to things like that, right? I wasn't exposed to that. Even though my child saw me be married and saw, a couple of my marriages in, well, at this point, 3 in, I wasn't not only exposing her to her pathology, but I was exposing her to something outside of her pathology, which I didn't have an opportunity to see. I didn't have the opportunity to see something outside of my pathology. It wasn't presented to me. Now, I don't think it was intentionally. I just think that my parents just didn't know, That's the time I came from, right? So now I'm exposing my child to something outside of her pathology. Outside of seeing her mom be in failed relationships, I'm showing her the key to being successful in life. And to me, that's education. And I know that we can do a lot of things now with, we're more innovative. I know the kids are doing all kind of things. But I just think for us as African Americans to have leverage when we go into the room, we have to have education. And maybe I'm old school. Maybe that's not true. I don't know, y'all. Y'all fight me in the comments. Excuse me. So she began to read, and like I said, we would be in the store and I would be grocery shopping and she would be right in front of me, in front of the buggy. She would have a book in front of her face reading, and I would have to guide her through the store because she would have a book in front of her face. Every summer, I would always introduce her to the next. There was no, we had fun in the summertime, but when right before school got started, we were already advanced to going to the next grade, with the math and the English and the reading and all that stuff. Just to make a long story short, she advanced in life and she did well in life. She went on to be an epidemiologist, right? Because I exposed her to something outside of her pathology, right? So when people ask me, if my MBA, was it worth it? Absolutely. Will this DBA be worth it at my age? Absolutely. Is it ever too late to reinvent yourself and to pour into yourself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is not. So I want all the women who, who are in my tribe and, who subscribe to my channel, I want you to always realize that your pathology is not your destiny. You can pour into yourself and reinvent yourself at any age. It's never too late. It's never too late. And I'll fight you on that. I am a living witness to that. I am a living witness to that. Never give up on what you desire. Even if you have obstacles in life and things don't go your way, that just means that was not your path. The marriages that I have had prior to the one that I'm going to have, that mean that that just wasn't who I was supposed to be with. That doesn't mean that my life has stopped and I stopped pouring into myself and reinventing myself. Because sometimes people in my situation, they give up, right? And they say, okay, you know, what's the point? I'm 60. Why would I continue to pour into myself? What am I going to get out of it? You get, for me, I'm going to say not you, but for me, it helps me to stay connected to myself. Because at one point, I disconnected with myself. And that feeling was awful. It was awful. And I don't never want to, y'all, that was just a little bit of eyeshadow. And y'all remember when I was telling y'all I couldn't find my lip bar on the last Get Ready With Me? Well, yeah, I found both of them. So I'm going to wear this one today because I'm wearing a black dress. I went a little black dress from Shein. It's real cute. I've had it forever, y'all. I just now, I'm just now wearing it today. I cut the tag off of it today. So I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it today. So I'm wearing a dress. It's cold here in Atlanta. It's about 40-something degrees. And then I got a little fox fur little jacket that I'm gonna wear that I got from ASOS, and that's one of my 60th gifts. And I'll show that when I do my part 1 continuation of my 60th gift at 60. So I'll make sure I share that with y'all. The jacket with y'all. I'm just putting my earrings on. So yeah, y'all. It's 4 o'clock. So I plan on leaving here at 5:30. And it's going to be at the Microsoft building that they just built here in Atlanta. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So I've never been there before. So I'm excited to go there. So yeah, y'all. I'm just excited about being back outside, honey. It's springtime and I'm about to be outside. Y'all know I'll be outside, baby. I don't be sitting around. I ain't sitting around waiting on letting no dust get up under me. That is not her. That is not me. So I am, hold on, y'all. Let me take these strips out my mouth. I got my teeth whitening strips in my mouth. I want to drink some. Okay, yeah, I wanted to take those strips out of my mouth. But yeah, so I'm just excited to go. You know, and they're going to have another function. So now they're probably going to they'll have one this month, and they'll probably have one in March that I'll go to. So I'm really excited about going to that one as well. So yeah, I don't know, I just get excited about networking, you know, with like-minded people. I just get real excited about that. So I'm gonna go to the one that they have next month as well. I'm gonna make sure I go to that one too. Just try to, you know, make sure I get out the house. And be seen, baby. It's a good thing to be seen, okay? It's a good thing to be seen. Trust me. So, yeah. So, I am, so yeah, I am just excited. Have a good time. And a lot of times at their events, they have they have food, but I already ate. For lunch, for breakfast, I did avocado toast and a boiled egg and some berries. And then for lunch, I had some turkey chops and a little bit of vegetables. So this is my coconut water. So I don't know if they're gonna have something, but a lot of times they have like you know, little hors d'oeuvres and food. And sometimes they have like full catered meals and stuff. So, you know, the Atlanta chapter is a good chapter. Atlanta and Houston is the biggest national Black MBA chapter. They're the two biggest. So I really enjoy going to their functions. But yeah, y'all. So I love chit-chatting with y'all and my get readies. Oh, let me show y'all this. So this is one of my gifts for 60 gifts before 60. So this is the Delina. Y'all, I have been wanting this forever. This has been in my cart, and I talked about that on my video. But this has been in my cart for... So, yeah, I just want trying to make sure I see my eyebrows. I'll be so glad when I get them on a braid. But, yeah, y'all, that's my little lip. Baby, I'm blushing. The blush is blushing. And I'm going to leave it just like this. Mind your business, because I'm a lady of a certain age and we like our blush. So mind your business. But yeah, I have been wanting this. So let's open it up. So I picked it up yesterday. This is the small bottle. This was like $2.68. So that's in my mind. You could have got that from, you could have ordered it from somewhere. But I don't want to order my stuff, and I don't know if it's, you know, you get those places where you can order like perfume from perfume outlets. I don't know about that. I want to smell my stuff and make sure it's the real deal. How it feel. I have been wanting this, y'all. So this is the Delina exclusive. So they have the Delina, and then this is the new one exclusive. So I have been wanting this, y'all, forever. It has been in my cart forever. Okay? When I say forever, forever. And I picked it up. Y'all, this little bottle, but whatever. It's my 60th. And whatever. I deserve it. I worked hard in life. I work for everything that I have. Don't nobody give me nothing. I work. I put in the work. I'm still putting in the work. And I'm not going to deprive myself of nothing, baby. You hear me? She ain't nothing. Oh, my gosh, y'all. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. This smells like she's 60. This smells like she's 60. She ground. She doing her. She's pouring into herself. She's connected to herself. This is what this is giving. Okay? So, yeah, y'all, that was one of the gifts that I picked up. And then, so the little guy, and y'all know I go to Nordstrom's. Miss Rebecca wasn't there. For all of you all who listen to me and baby girl's video and watched her birthday video over on the Sammy Nicole and Fifi show. You all make sure you go over there and subscribe. Oh, and make sure you subscribe and like to the channel if you haven't already subscribed and like to the channel. Okay? Make sure you subscribe and like to the channel if you hadn't already subscribed and like to this channel. All right? So, he made me up some Delina body cream. I was like, oh, yeah, as much as I spent. But I get all my fragrances from Nordstrom's, y'all. I get them all from Nordstrom's. So, yeah, y'all. So, that's just all. I wanted to come on and do my makeup and just chit chat with you all. And just, just see what y'all had going on. That's all, just to see what y'all had going on. So I'm still putting stuff on. But I appreciate you all watching. Once again, my name is Felicia. They call me Fee. Doc Fee, whatever. Over here, it's all about Gen X, baby boomer, lifestyle, pop culture, dating, menopause. Please, perimenopause, please subscribe to my LTK. I got menopause survival supplies over there for you ladies. So make sure you go over there and subscribe to the, follow my LTK. Everything that I've used today and everything that you've seen me pick up will be linked in my LTK. And let me get dressed. Let me put my dress on. It's 4:18, so I still got a little bit more time. It doesn't start to 6:30, but with Atlanta, we in Atlanta. With Atlanta traffic, I need to leave out of here by 5:30 because I like to give me a good seat. And this is a pretty big chapter, so it probably will be crowded. And it was free. You just go on Eventbrite and you get your tickets. But I'm a member, so, and I pay about $50 a year for a membership. It's not a lot for grad chapter. So I'm excited to go. And of course, I will show you all, I will video or take a picture of what I have on. And I'll try to get some clips of the event and make sure I include them in this Get Ready With Me. Once again, I'm Felicia. They call me Fee, Doc Fee. And I'll see you all in the next one.